Using a look at the papers. Venezuela, more protests expected.
That's right. More protests will rock Venezuela today. The leader of the opposition, Enrique Capriles, has called for nationwide protests to reject the violence that overshadowed Sunday's vote on a constitution. Now, one writer from Últimas Noticias, which is a paper that some call the mouthpiece of the Venezuelan government, has angrily lashed out at the international press for, I quote, underreporting the successes of the vote and exacerbating the weekend's violence driven by the opposition, it says, when in reality there were only flashpoints of violence. So you're seeing a really fierce defense from the paper.
You found quite a lot of chatter in the press, haven't you, saying the vote essentially kind of seals the deal for a really new dictatorship here?
Well, that's at least according to the Western press. Let's look at the Canadian paper, The Globe and Mail, which is this opinion piece is rather fatalist, it must be said. The author says that Maduro has muzzled most of the media. He's gained control of the judiciary. He's assured the loyalty of executives and the military in the past 12 months. Rewriting the constitution is the final step in what will become a dictatorship, not a democracy. Even loyalists of the late Venezuelan leader Hugo Chavez, who appointed Maduro as his successor, have lashed out at Maduro. According to the newspaper El País, they say the new constitution will essentially betray Chavez's legacy.
Let's move on to something different for you. Pakistan we're talking about now. The brother of the ousted Prime Minister, Nawaz Sharif, has been named his successor.
Well, Nawaz Sharif was fired last week as Prime Minister over corruption allegations toward. Now his brother Shahbaz has been named interim leader ahead of Tuesday's parliamentary vote to pick a new leader from the same party. For the cartoonist from this Pakistani newspaper, the Daily Times, one Sharif's misery is another Sharif's gain, as you see a crying Nawaz leaving the PM's house while his victorious brother takes his place. Now, the opposition party's leader, Imran Khan, who's of course a very well-known former cricket player, has been taking advantage of the chaos. He held a day called a Thanksgiving Day, actually, yesterday in front of thousands of supporters to celebrate Pakistan's victory against corruption, according to Dawn, another Pakistani daily.
There's been some criticism, though, hasn't there, about the way he's kind of pounced on all this chaos to further his own political gains.
Well, the editors at The Nation, which is another Pakistani newspaper, accuse Imran Khan of suffering from bouts of what they call tactlessness. As he and his opposition party gathered yesterday, they did have much to be thankful for. That's what the editors say. But he didn't appear to be the gracious winner. And this topic is really also the topic of this article from the New York Times, which is really looking ahead at next year's elections, general elections, in which they say Imran Khan may be a favorite because he's running on this anti-American, populist, anti-corruption platform, but he's not a shoo-in to become the next Pakistani leader either, because he lacks political experience and he's also got his own legal battles to deal with.
Let's talk about Australia now. The authorities there arresting a family of suspected Islamic extremists allegedly plotted to bring down an Australian passenger plane.
Well, that terror plot was foiled on the weekend, and the Australian newspaper reports in an exclusive that the suspects were allegedly planning to gas passengers in flight on a plane, allegedly again heading for somewhere in the Middle East, in what's been described as a major terrorist attack plot by the Islamic State group militants from inside Syria. So this is very serious for Australian authorities. The incident has also been fodder of some sorts for the conservative press in Australia, especially on issues of refugees, migrants, the intake of future populations into the country. In an opinion piece, the Australian newspaper hails three factors that helped thwart this attack: the close relationship between security agencies, expanded surveillance powers, and tough anti-terror laws, often, I quote, criticized by civil libertarians. The paper goes on to say that rigorous screening of potential immigrants and refugees is more important than ever.
Finally, this half hour, we're going to end with Anthony Scaramucci, Donald Trump's new PR director, of course.
Well, he may be the newest member of the Trump administration, but he's certainly not getting any Father of the Year awards. He's been accused of launching foul-mouthed tirades on members of the Trump administration. You can add poor form to that list now. Scaramucci's estranged wife gave birth to their child last week. He missed it because he was attending Donald Trump's speech to the Boy Scouts. He did congratulate repaid his wife by text message, though, telling her he would pray for their newborn son. He did visit the child 4 days later, though. It's not a surprise, though, that the Mooch's wife, at 9 months pregnant, had already asked for a divorce.
4 days later, though.
That's right.
A little bit of a gap, isn't it? Dipti, thanks a lot. Dipti Laurent with the papers.